Welcome back to the Recruits podcast, episode number 3. I'm your host, Jonathan Cottone, Recruit Scout and correspondent. Today, we're with the mighty Grant McCagg. How are you doing today?
Mighty. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's the best description you've made so far, I think.
Well, I'm glad you enjoy it. So today we'll be talking about the U18s, some players who have impressed you, some teams who have been playing well, and we'll talk about that. So first off, obviously this tournament is extremely influential to the draft stock and the draft stock to the players. I'm just wondering for you, how important would you say this tournament is for the players?
It's the most important event of the year for all the players that are in it. Um, you want to see a player improve during the season, you know. I mean, the two most important tournaments are the Halinka and the U18, but by draft time, not many people are remembering what happened at the Halinka. It's you know, the popular term recency bias there, I guess, to a certain degree, but it's because you want to see improvement throughout the season. Players getting stronger, faster. Playing maybe more competitive. It's such an important tournament because it's the World Championship. So you're playing for your country, and you want to see players that that show heart, competitiveness, and because you're looking for players that are going to help you at playoff time in the NHL, ideally, especially in the first round. You're trying to pick players that down the road are going to help you win, hopefully a Stanley Cup, but at least playoff games. So um, the most competitive, the most uh, the players that prove the most here are going to help their draft stock for sure.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. We'll talk about the USA's first line here. There's 3 guys who should go in the top 20, maybe even top 15. I want to talk first about Will Smith. I know we've talked in the past, just us two, and off the puck, he's not really influential, you could say, when you're watching him this season. But now in this tournament, obviously he's got crazy skill. Everybody knows that already. On the puck, he is magical. But off the puck in this tournament, it seems like he's just more imposed, I think you could say. And I know you haven't been very high on him, but what's your thoughts about his game this tournament?
He's still not great away from the puck. You know, I mean, especially I just did back-to-back videos on Dvorsky and Smith, and you really notice the difference in their defensive play and their competitiveness, how hard they work away from the puck, how hard they check, boards battles, all of that. He's not ever going to be, I don't think, a terrific two-way player, but yeah, I mean, 15 points, uh, him and Perot and Leonard are going to break records probably with point totals at this championship. Mind you, they did play in probably the weakest division that we've seen here. The way things turned out because Slovakia had been out for a few years. Latvia, Norway, Switzerland are not strong, and even Finland this year. You know, this is one of the weakest Finnish teams that they've put in the competition. I think there might be one top 50 player on the team, and that's rare. So uh, we're going to put a lot of stock in what happens in the medal round because the competition will ramp up, and we'll see. I have seen a little bit more competitiveness from him away from the puck, but it's still not great. However, these are the important games now, the medal round. And if he does show, uh, some competitiveness, it's going to help him immensely with me, because that's been the real worrisome part for me is just, is he going to be a center at the NHL level? I have my doubts, but I'm, he still got probably has 2 or 3 games. I presume they're going to win the quarterfinals. Uh, 2 or 3 games to show me what I want to see in that regard, because Leonard does a lot of the work, that both Perot and Leonard come back and cover for him, cover the opposing center quite often because he's not coming back. He likes to stand at the blue line, the opponent's blue line, and let the other two guys do the work, So it's tough to, in that sense too, that he's got such great line mates that, how much of it is him, the 15 points, how much, if he was playing with, you know, mediocre line mates or, average ones, how many points would he have? And you can't, it's impossible to tell, but my sense is that he's going to be a point producer in the NHL, but not a play driver, I don't think. I was looking at his puck touches, zone entries. He doesn't handle the puck a heck of a lot. And you want your top two center to be a puck possession guy, to be bringing the puck into the zone, to be the guy that's kind of running things, and he doesn't really do that. I mean, he's fantastic working with his two talented line mates. But is he going to be a center in the NHL? Can he check top two lines? Will he drive play? I don't know if that's the case, but certainly he'll be a point producer, and it may be on the wing, and that's fine. It may be a first line winger. But whether he'll be a top two center is still in doubt for me. And these medal round games are going to be very important for him as far as my final evaluation of him goes.
You mentioned obviously this division being not very good, you mentioned, and obviously these stats could be inflated because of so. Probably is, but even then, playing very well. We'll talk a bit about Leonard a bit more. As you mentioned, he's kind of the play driver, him and Perot, but he's a very unique type of player. He's 5'11", 6 foot, not the biggest guy, but he plays very big. So what are your thoughts on him in this tournament?
Well, yeah, he's not very tall, but he's built. He's a strong kid. Like, I don't know his exact weight, but you can tell that he's very strong. You don't have to be 6'2" to be strong, right? And the lower center of gravity, sometimes it's actually a bonus, But yeah, he's ultra competitive. I would not, I know the casual scouting fans and that don't scout for a living, understandably love Will Smith a lot, but in the scouting world, there are certainly a lot of guys that prefer Leonard. It's very close with the two. It wouldn't shock me. I mean, Smith probably goes first, but it wouldn't shock me if a team steps up and takes Leonard ahead of him. It's going to be very interesting at the draft. It's going to depend on if you think Will Smith can develop his habit, better work habits, and because he's probably got more skill than Leonard, but Leonard is very skilled as well and very smart, has a great shot, but his competitiveness and physical play are a notch above. And certainly, if a team's wants a guy that they think is going to be consistent at playoff time and give you consistent effort when the games really count, they might end up drafting him ahead of Smith. So it's going to be very interesting. And as I said before, these medal games are going to be important for all three of those guys.
And yeah, finally, Perot, 15 points, same as Will Smith. Probably going to be the third guy to get picked out of the three. So I've seen a lot of people talk about his skating being not up to par to what it should be. So what are your thoughts on his play this tournament?
Yeah, I don't think that skating is an issue. He, I mean, he's not an elite skater, but it's certainly average, at least, average to above average at the junior level. I don't think it's going to be an issue with him. He's just so smart and very skilled too, and I think he works He's a little more defensively conscientious than Smith as well. Um, Underrated playmaker. He creates a lot of the offense for that line, just with his vision and smarts. And he's I mean, there's a lot of games where he's the best of the three, and for a lot of the year, I think he's been ranked probably 15 to 20 on a lot of NHL scouts lists, but he just keeps proving, proving himself over and over again. I mean, he set a record for points on the U.S. development team. He's leading this tournament in scoring again. It wouldn't surprise me if all three of them ended up going in the top 10 at this point.
Yeah, so that would be something for sure. 3 Americans in the top 10, that'd be something. Well, you mentioned them before, Dalibor, Dvorsky. Obviously, you very much like him. I think everybody on the internet can say so. He scored 4 goals and 1 assist against Germany. What are your thoughts on his play this tournament?
Yeah, I just posted a video on that game. He was just lights out, you know. I mean, aside from the 4 goals and assist, natural hat trick when the team's down 4-2 late in the game, he basically put the team on his back, and they needed that, because they were, I mean, there's a possibility that they could have been in the relegation game, even, I believe, so, or certainly close to it, and they didn't want to be facing U.S. in the if they lost that game, they'd likely been facing the U.S. in the quarterfinals, right? Just he's the entire package as far as I'm concerned. There's no weaknesses to his game. He's got size, very strong. He's going to be a power forward type center. Great shot. Puck possession has just been crazy in this tournament. He's been averaging 150 plus puck touches a game and 9 zone entries, which are phenomenal marks, and what you want to see from a top 2 center, prospective top 2 center. I've had several scouts, and I feel the same way, that say his floor is second line center, that they think he's guaranteed to be a second line center in the NHL, and you don't hear that very often, like that. He's so safe, yet the worst he's going to be is a second line center. That's just I mean, for me, at this point, I don't see him not being a top 5 pick. And I know a lot of independent lists haven't had him there. It was the same way with Mason McTavish a couple of years ago, and I see a lot of similarities in them. Similar size, just very good, very strong, like power forward game. They can beat you, with a stick handle or with power through you. He and I like to see that I think it'll translate well to the NHL. A lot of juniors dangler, they dangle at the junior level and they get away with it, but NHL defensemen are so good that you can only do it now and then at the NHL level. He's, he can beat you different ways, and he's an outstanding defensive centerman as well. So I think, the fact that there aren't any flaws in his game, and much like Mason McTavish, great shot, good playmaker, good vision, very, very competitive, good size, really strong. I don't see any flaws in his game, and he's going to be so attractive to NHL teams on draft day that I'd be surprised at this point if he doesn't go in the top 5.
I know you mentioned McTavish, but I might be putting you on the spot here. But do you have someone who maybe has a longer NHL career as a good comparison to the Dvorsky?
Well, I mean, Bo Horvat's been somebody that I had an NHL scout bring his name up the other day. I've heard him compared to Braden Shen, but I think he's got more skill, better skater, better shot. But I mean, even if that's, all he ends up being, there aren't many Braden Shens in this draft class. And he was a huge part of St. Louis's cup win, I think that's his floor. Like, the minimum that he could be. But
Mhm.
you know, personally, I don't know that I've seen a better defensive center prospect since Bergeron. So, I mean, you know, I don't like to throw that name out liberally, but uh, there are some similarities to Patrice Bergeron as well. So, I just think he's going to help a team win at playoff time, and that's so attractive to teams.
Sweden's been, playing very well as well in this tournament. They have a few notable names. We'll start off with the forward Otto Stenberg. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's got 9 points, fifth in the leaderboards in points in the tournament. How would you rank his game this tournament?
Yeah, he's been pretty good. You know, he always seems to produce. He's a very good skater, smart, uh, good vision, playmaker. Plays a little to the outside, you know, and he's not overly big. But he just keeps producing at these tournaments. And you know, when all the big scouts are there and the kid keeps producing, I'm presuming that he's going to go in the first round, but you know, probably 21 to 32, somewhere in that range. You know, if not, it'll be really early in the second round. But you know, he's a decent forward prospect. I do like Edstrom more.
Hmm.
You know, 6'3" centerman, two-way game, very competitive, anticipates the play so well. He's always stealing the puck. I don't know how he's got a long stick, I guess it is, and he always seems to get to the puck and get it off the other team's stick. And then great at screening the goalie. He's been in the goalie's face all tournament long. Um, he's a goal scorer, you know, 6'3" center that can score goals. It's good defensively. It screens the goalie. So I mean, he anticipates the play well. There's so many boxes that he checks off for me. I've liked him more than, you know, I don't know anyone that's had him in the top 20 this year, and I have had him there since probably December, and that's not from what I've seen at the tournament. That's not going to change. I still like him a lot, and I think uh, Craig Button mentioned that he's one of the main risers, which was nice to hear from those guys because it seems like they just haven't, you know, people hadn't been paying close enough attention to him, and that's changing now. So I'm expecting him to go in the first round and probably ahead of Stenberg.
That big 8-0 win from Sweden against Canada saw Axel Sandin Palika play very well. I know you've had him relatively lower on your list compared to others. How would you
Yeah.
rank his game this tournament?
Well, that game there, you know, it was the best I've seen him play this year. Um, and then the next game he was pretty good as well. In the last two games, so he struggled a bit. I don't know if he read too many press clippings or let it go to his head a little bit or what, but as one scout said, and I agree, he's trying to be a bit too fancy, you know. Um, it's funny, he got 5 points against Canada and then won in the next three games, which is
Mhm.
kind of, you know, you would expect it to be the other way around, that he'd get five against the weaker teams and then one against Canada. But I mean, that game, you want to see it. You know, I always say there a game where a player shows you how good he can be, and that game certainly was the one that, you know, that told me that I probably have him a little too low in my rankings and move him up some. Uh, we'll see how he does in the medal round here. You know, a 5'11" defenseman. You want to see how he is away from the puck, especially defensively. He got burned a few times in the last couple of games, and so I'm a little concerned about that. But certainly, he hasn't hurt his draft stock at the tournament so far. That's for sure.
The Canadian goalie Jonason, who obviously had a tough start and now slowly kind of picking it up. How would you rate his game this tournament?
Yeah, Bjarnason.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, 8-0, right? They lost to Sweden to start. And uh, but I didn't, goalies can have those games, and Sweden had a lot of power plays, and Canada was really crappy, and they kind of left them out to dry there, you know. And so I didn't put that much stock in that game. Obviously that game hurt his draft stock, but since then he's been, he found his game. He shut out Germany in the next game, and then went head to head against Vrabel, who I considered it. Those two are the best goalie prospects, and he obviously outplayed Vrabel. Vrabel got pulled, let in too many goals. But I probably like Vrabel a little more than Bjarnason, but both of them I don't think have hurt their draft stock, and we'll see how they do in the in the next game and the rest of the tournament. But they're the two best goalies, and we've seen good things from both. So little inconsistent, but that's goaltenders for you. They they have their good. Even Carey Price and Patrick Waugh had games like that at times. Patty Waugh had one where against Detroit that a lot of Habs fans remember. Where his last game as a Montreal Canadian.
Yeah.
So I mean, it happens, and you can never put too much stock on just one game. Especially with goalies.
We mentioned Sandin Pellikka. I'm assuming he's not the defenseman who you think has played the best so far. Who would that be?
Oh, that's a good question. Uh, Maybe Cole Hudson has been the best defenseman. Lane's little brother.
Yeah.
But I mean, best defenseman. I'd have to have a look here. Who are the top ones? Hudson's is the leading scorer among defensemen. So there you go. +7 as well. He stood out for me, He's got a lot of the same qualities as Lane. And it's kind of, it's kind of neat to see that there's another talented little defenseman coming up in the US, and him and Kiva Harju there in Finland, they're both underagers, and they're probably the best defenseman at in this tournament, which gives you an idea of that it's not the best defense crop this year, safe to say, for the draft. We've had a lot better, so those would be the guys that kind of that come to mind.
Another defenseman, Maxime Sturbach. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Thoughts on him?
Yeah, he's I really liked him at the World Juniors, so no surprise that he's been pretty good here too. Gets big minutes. Wears the C for Slovakia. Pretty good two-way defender that probably goes either at the end of the first round or early in the second. I had one scout there that didn't like, I guess, his second game, and he was texting me and telling me about it, that he wasn't overly good. But I haven't really seen that he's struggled. I think he's a really solid defense prospect, and he hasn't hurt himself at this tournament.
We'll talk about the other American, the fourth, I guess, forward you could say on the States, who maybe doesn't get as much love as he should. Oliver Moore, who's more of a kind of speedy center, plays defensively well. What are your thoughts on him this tournament? Obviously only having 6 points, but he's still a good player, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I don't know that his 2 assists center, you want to see a little more production, especially when you're playing teams like Norway and Latvia and that, and he only had 2 assists. I don't know that he's overly creative. Like, I don't think he sees it that great. But he's certainly one of the better skaters in this draft class. and he uses his speed a lot like Nazar to create offense. I don't think he's doing it necessarily with his mind as much as he is with just his speed. And that's where he's going to. That's going to be his bread and butter. Now, is he going to be a top two center at the NHL level? That remains to be seen. But he's more competitive than Smith, and probably, projects to be a safer center prospect at the NHL level. He's going to play center, I think. Pretty good defensively, consistent effort. So there's lots of things to like about him, and I'm expecting him to go somewhere 12 to 18, likely 12 to 15, somewhere in there. I've also liked, Slovakia's had a kid there, Pekarchik, who he doesn't turn 18 till September 12th, which is always intriguing, when you see a kid that's he has 7 points in the tournament. He didn't really pay much attention to him this year. Like, he was playing in Czech league or something and wasn't really highly rated. So, there's so many prospects to see, and sometimes you don't get to see a few guys till the under 18s. And he's one of them that's really, I didn't have him ranked in my top 100, but certainly he could be a second rounder, the way he's played. Don't know that he's the most creative player, but good size and really skates well and has a great engine and creates a lot. You notice him out there every game. And I think he's been, for me, the most pleasant surprise, and the guy that's jumped up the most in the on my draft rankings.
You mentioned the Czechs, obviously, and there's a player, Edward Saleh, who probably the better player on the Czechs, or Sal. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I'm not from Czech Republic, but he had some talks of him being maybe top 5, maybe top 10. How has his game this tournament played out?
Oh, he teases you. You see that skill. He's got good size, a great shot, good stick handler, good skater. So, and the physical tools are there, but he's still driving me crazy with his, he can be invisible for 80% of the game, 90% of the game, but then score a big goal for a team, So, he's a bit of a ball breaker, as scouts like to say. I don't see him going top 10. You'd be really going out. He could get fired. He could end up being a bust. He's a bit of a boomer bust type guy. Very soft. Like, he's not going to battle in the corner and at any time, you're just, if you want him to win puck battles, you got the wrong guy. Playoff time in the NHL, I'm still finding it very difficult to believe that he'll be a difference maker. He may score the odd goal because he's just so talented, and he'll get his chances now and then, and he'll help with a bit of offense, but help you win playoff games, I don't know that that's the guy that you say, oh, well, I got to take a top 10 chance on this guy, because there's just too much risk there. But certainly, if a team does take him top 10, it's not a complete shock, because from a talent level, he's top 10 in this draft. So he'll be an interesting guy to see on draft day, to see where he ends up going.
We'll finish off here with Team Canada. Is there anybody on the team who's impressed you? Anybody who hasn't impressed you? Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, well, Matthew Wood is, it just seems like he always scores goals. His skating is a huge concern, but there are exceptions all the time, that, like, Robertson there in Dallas was, dropped to the second round, 39th overall or whatever it was, despite just tearing it up in Kingston in his draft year. You know, Kaliev, he reminds me a bit of Kaliev in LA as well. Scored 50 goals in his draft year and didn't get picked till the second round. I think teams, because of this success of guys like that, I mean, it's, you know, it's not that often it happens, but it does. You're not going to see him go 39th overall like Jason Robertson did. You know, he's certainly going to go because of the success of those guys. That, you know, if he can improve his skating at all, and I mean, all indications are that he's a good kid and hard worker and all that, and went to college and produced. You know, I've kept him 15 to 25 most of the year, and but he's gonna inch up my rankings for sure. And it wouldn't surprise me if a team that's looking for some size, that, you know, goal scoring winger with size, that you know, he might be considered close to the top 10 and 10 to 15. It wouldn't shock me if he went there. So he's been a pleasant surprise so far for me. I've liked Gibson on defense and Caden Price. The two of them, I don't think have hurt their draft stock. Richie's game has picked up the last couple of games, and I haven't minded how he's played. But overall, you know, the Canadians have been a little disappointing, I guess you could say. But I don't think anybody's really hurting their draft stock or helping it on the Canadians so far. But the medal round will be important for those guys as well, and hopefully they have good showing. And, you know, I mean, just from a personal standpoint, I'm hoping they win. So we'll see what happens.
Well, we'll finish off on this question, Grant. Who's your team to win it all? Obviously, it's not so much a tournament you need to predict, and that doesn't matter too much who wins it, but obviously you want to see players play well. So obviously I think I know what you're going to say, but who do you think is going to win?
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting because the U.S. hasn't really been tested, you know, and we've seen it before where a team kind of coasts through the preliminary round and then gets upset. You know, it's a sudden death, right? You got to win one game, you know, for three straight. Obviously, they're the favorites because, you know, they might set scoring records, you know, with that top first line. But, you know, it reminds you of 2019 with Caulfield, Hughes, and Boldy and Turcotte, and, you know, all were picked in the top 15, right? 3 top 10 picks, and they didn't win either, you know. So I think usually the teams that win playoff time, and this is what this is now, is playoff time for these guys, are the teams with the best goalies and defense. And I don't know that the US has that. So I think Canada and Sweden would be the top teams in that regard. I think Canada, you know, defense and goaltending is solid. So you know, it wouldn't shock me if Canada or Sweden beats them, but at this point, and you know, I don't think it's a shock to anyone to say that the US is the favorite.
Well, Grant, I appreciate your time once again. It's always fun to chat about these prospects, and yeah, so we'll see who wins it. And yeah, so it's going to be a good end of the tournament. Obviously, there's a lot of players who are going to get drafted next year. Yzerman on the States, Celebrini on Canada. So it's good to see a lot of these guys produce as well. But Grant, once again, thank you. And yeah, thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you.